What's going on, guys? What's happening? YouTube, you guys have tuned into another episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. Now, before we start today's episode, which, by the way, is a great one. This is one of my favorites we've done in a while. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. If anyone out there is an editor and would like to edit these episodes of Side Hustle Tuesdays, reach out to me, rulesforrebels@gmail.com. You know, back in the day, I used to edit some of these, nothing too fancy. You guys know I suck at editing and video stuff. But I would kind of edit like photos of the company's websites, pictures of their products. In areas where I'm mentioning things, I would edit it in photos or images to kind of go along with the story. And I think it adds a lot to the story. Somebody recently dropped a comment and was like, hey, you should edit these and put some stuff in there. And I was like, yeah, you know, no shit. That would be a lot cooler. I just honestly don't have the time, nor do I really have the skills to do so. And while I would like to get better at editing, probably a skill you should have if you have a YouTube channel, I just don't have the time for it right now. So if anyone either offers editing at affordable prices, I can't pay too much just because I really don't make any money off these Side Hustle Tuesday episodes. I really don't feel like taking it to Patreon. I'd like to keep it here for everybody. So, you know, I'm not going to shell a ton of money out of my own pocket to get these edited, but if anybody can edit at affordable prices or would be willing to edit for credit or an advertisement on the video, definitely reach out to me. With that said, let's hop into today's video, and we're going to kind of do the double intro that I so often do, but let's get right into it. So what's happening, guys? What's going on YouTube? You've tuned into Rules for Rebels and another episode of Side Hustle Tuesdays. Today is episode 104. I especially love today's episode for a number of reasons. One, today's side hustler was a big introvert, something that initially held him back in launching his business. Two, prior to launching this successful business, he'd had 25 failed side hustles, only one of which ever even managed to make $1. And three, in the end, he found success, and best of all, has a fairly passive income stream, or at least as passive as it can go running a business, that is. The timing of today's episode is funny as well. I'm currently reading a book called The Dip by Seth Godin. The tagline to The Dip is a little book that teaches you when to quit and when to stick. You know, in the world of entrepreneurship, perseverance is admired and sought after, and while perseverance is incredibly important when launching a business, having too much perseverance can often lead you to spinning your wheels for months or even years on something that will never take off. It's important to know when to quit and when to stick, and we'll be covering that in a future video. Today's entrepreneur, however, seemed to know exactly when and how to do that. Courtney Farquharson had always been a side hustler. He had quite a number of side hustles, unfortunately no successful ones. Courtney was desperate for a change. He was a software engineer. He made good money, but he wasn't happy with his work-life balance. It was out of whack. It only got worse after Courtney and his wife had their twins. The busy schedule and lack of sleep made his life seem even more hectic than it had been before. And you know, it's odd that it was at this time, when he was busier than ever, that he decided to launch his 26 side hustle after the 25 previously failed ones, but he wanted to get out of the rat race and he wanted his life back. I think this is an interesting point to focus on for a moment. Success in business generally come out of one of two things: inspiration and desperation. And personally, I think desperation is even stronger than inspiration. I think we can all think to a time that we've been inspired and excited to try something, but that spurt of inspiration slowly fades away and nothing gets done. When you're desperate, there's often even more stick-to-itness. Since 2006, Courtney had launched 25 side hustles, from e-commerce businesses to coding projects and even a failed social network. I know we all get down on ourselves at times when our side hustles don't work out, don't make as much money as we'd thought, or don't progress as quickly as we like, but I think most of you guys have had more success than Courtney had in his earlier projects. Out of his 25 side hustles, only one of them even made a single dollar. Courtney had described himself as a wantrepreneur. Courtney did some self-evaluation and realized something. He loved building things, but he was an introvert. He'd rather be listening to a podcast and coding than talking to clients or selling his services. He also found himself regularly getting excited, launching products, but losing interest and jumping to the next. Something I think we can all probably relate to. At this point, however, Courtney had a stronger why: a family and wanting to take control and take his life back. What was different this time around was, rather than just an idea, Courtney began with a business model. He knew he wanted to launch an SaaS service or a a project or software. SaaS is software as a service. Whether you've heard that term or not, or whether you know what SaaS services are or not, you probably use some of them. Whether it be a product finder tool like Jungle Scout, a design tool like Canva, a sales tool like Salesforce, a website builder like Wix, or an Amazon merch tool like Merch Informer, these are all SaaS services. An SaaS service is a software as a service which charges a monthly fee for access and which solves some type of problem. Courtney realized he had to solve a real problem so people would be willing to pay for his service. He also realized it needed to be something that needed to be fixed time and time again, or they just subscribe one time, fix their problem, and cancel. So Courtney began looking for projects he'd worked on in the past. One particular project that came to mind was a client whose project he worked on where they needed information to be extracted out of emails and added to companies' internal systems automatically, rather than having to have an employee manually check all these emails and re-enter all the info. Another example could be a restaurant whose online orders come in via email, but who wants those emails put into an order system and sent to the kitchen, as opposed to having to have an employee check emails, manually ring up those tickets, and send them back to the kitchen. This is called parsing. On a previous project, Courtney knew that the client had paid over $2,000 for the solution they came up with. He figured if somebody was willing to pay that much, there's probably a lot of people who'd be willing to pay slightly less, but for the same solution, and who'd be willing to pay an ongoing monthly fee. Courtney got to coding. Being a husband and father and having a full-time job, he didn't have a lot of time, but he made time. He woke up early and put in an hour's worth of work before heading off to work. He worked a couple hours each evening after putting his twins to bed, and a few months later, he had his tool. He called it Parser, but with 2 R's at the end. Now, earlier in our story, we talked about how Courtney was an introvert. I'm an introvert, so I can relate. Courtney hated the idea of cold calling clients. He wanted a less controversial marketing model. He found something called Microsoft Flow, which is basically an app store for business tools, similar to the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Shortly after putting up Parser, he found his first would-be customer. The guy wound up asking a bunch of questions. Courtney answered them all. Courtney even went on to have a Skype call with the guy and even did a one-person webinar for him. But it paid off. A couple days later, he got an email notification, the one he'd been waiting for. He made his first $50. Now, $50 is nothing to turn your nose up at, but it's even more exciting when you're Courtney, whose previous 25 side hustles combined barely made a buck. He hired a babysitter, took the wife out for dinner, and had what he describes as the best night he'd had in a while. I'm guessing there was a beach involved. Over the coming weeks, he found more and more customers, but he still knew he needed to grow things further. He decided to find use cases for his software, things like scanning emails for invoices, or adding email leads to spreadsheets, or how to send invoice details from email to FTP. He then used SEO, or search engine optimization, to target these keywords, and it paid off that they were long-tail keywords, and he let his customers find him that way instead of cold calling them. Turned out, what Courtney called his introvert's marketing method worked out pretty well. Clients found him. He didn't have to waste time cold calling and doing something he hated, something he wasn't good at, and it left him more time to code and improve the product. Now, in the world of SaaS services or businesses, there's something called the slow ramp of death, where some SAS services do ramp up really fast. On average, it takes about 2 years of slow growth to really take off. Courtney continued improving the product, continued offering support to customers when necessary, and continued working on the SEO, and it grew. Today, Courtney's business Parser does in the low 5 figures in monthly income per month, which is about equal to his day job. While he's not ready to quit his day job just yet, he plans on trying to grow revenue by 25% over the next year, and if he can do that, he plans on leaving the day job. For Courtney, while the money is great, it's not just about the money. Keep in mind he had 25 failed side hustles before finding a success. He views this as a 12-year-long journey, which he is finally gaining ground. He's found a way to launch his business in a way that he was able to play to his strength. He's able to provide for his family, and he's very likely in his very near future to be leaving his day job behind to spend time with his wife and twins and take his life back. Well, guys, that's today's side hustle story. If you guys want to check out Courtney's website, I'll link to it down below. Well, it is a paid service. There is a free version that works for, I believe, up to 15 emails per month. If you guys just want to try it out to kind of get an idea of what this service is, or if you can find kind of limited use for it, up to 15 emails per month, you can use it for free. Anyhow, guys, that's today's story. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found some inspiration. And until next time, this is Rules for Rebels, Inside Hustle Tuesdays, signing out.